morning. One of the greatest challenges you face as a leader is how do you get individuals with a 3-pound universe up here, this brain we have, and this human heart, and you look at all the different ways we have of understanding the world. I'm the oldest of 6 children. My baby sister is the youngest of 6, and we both look at the world very differently. Birth order. Oldest child looks at the world, we have to be responsible. We have to take charge. The youngest child looks at the world in another way. Who's going to take care of me? How am I going to be seen? Birth order is diversity. Coming across different national groups, diversity. Gender, diversity. We have all of these people with different perspectives and different ways of thinking, even if we use the same language. How do we get everybody aligned and pulling together? That's a challenge. I've now worked with over 100 CEOs across 100 different organizations, and each of the CEOs has this problem. One CEO said to me, he said, you know, this would be a great business if it weren't for all the darn people. But when we come to human beings, we're dealing with something called the psyche logic. The logic of the psyche, the logic of the soul, the logic of the mind, the logic of the heart. And when we come to that, how we get people aligned is really difficult. Now, when I talk about STAR teams, it means something. The STAR is strategically aligned. Are we strategically aligned? Are we focused on the right things? Are we pulling together? Tactically enabled, T. Are we tactically enabled? Are we enabled to actually execute against that strategy? When we come to talking about building STAR teams, we want them to be results driven. So, strategically aligned, tactically enabled, accountability driven, and results focused is what we're really talking about. What are the identifiers of a STAR team? High quality results that are delivered consistently. We get really good results and we get it consistently. There's a seamless flow of communication and collaboration. Seamless flow of information. No barrier. Anybody can talk to anybody. There's a transparency in what we do. Third, there's a rapid transfer of learning. If I learn, I make a mistake, instead of covering up, I say, hey, let me tell you how I screwed up today. Let me tell you the mistake I made, because I want the rest of the team to learn from this, so we don't make the same mistake. Fourth, there's effective development of peer mutual coaching. High-functioning teams develop individuals. If I'm part of a high-functioning team, I'm learning from the others. They're helping me to be smarter and better and to grow. It's part of the process. There's a high level of accountability. I take responsibility. We screwed up. We made a mistake. Instead, you made the mistake. There's an accountability for the team. There's an effective and efficient workflow. We're willing to look and see how we could communicate, work better, and we're willing to re-engineer ourselves. And finally, there's innovation and empowered individuals. This PowerPoint will be made available to anybody who wants it, by the way. So, the key is connection. I've been talking about connection for about 30 years. I'm a marital and family therapist by training. Now, this may surprise you, but I never had a couple come to me and say, Dusty, things are so good. We came to you to make them better. I saw couples when the man would say, she's the problem. You need to fix her. And she would say, there's no mental illness in my family. However, in his family. And I was supposed to get these two people who were like this to come together like this. All right? Now, the nice thing about being a consultant is about 40% of the time, I get to work with CEOs and organizations that say, things are pretty good, we want to make them better. 60% of the time, it's like, we're in trouble, we need some help. But when I was in private practice, I never got the healthy people at that time. I always got the problems. How do we build the connections? We know this is what we want. This is how most organizations function. How do I get this? How do I create that becomes the challenge. I want a team that learns faster. I want a team that will challenge other teams. I want an infection of excellence. Challenges are, do I feel valued? Do I feel connected? And those issues of feeling valued or connected have to do with turnover, have to do with engagement. Let me just ask you something. Would everybody raise your hand, please? Everybody raise your hand. Great. Look around the room. Can you get your hand any higher than that? Can you get your hand higher than that? Can you get it? Ah, thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the difference between this and this is significant. But this, and this is even more. And I've even had some people get up and do this. The difference between this and this is called discretionary effort. Discretionary effort. Every human being, every human heart has that ability to give you more. In high-functioning organizations, by our estimate, you're only getting 30% of what your people could give you. Only 30% of the creativity, the innovation, the sense of power, the passion, the engagement, the teamwork. That's a good organization. Bad organizations, you're getting about 5%. How do I get better results? Well, you maintain focus on purpose. What's the purpose? What's the vision, mission, and goals? One of the CEOs I worked with was CEO of a United Healthcare plan. It was about a $2 billion plan, North Carolina, South Carolina. Frank Masha was his name. Now, Frank was an old HR guy, human resources. He was not a technician, and he wasn't, as he'll tell you, he says, I'm not the smartest guy around. But what Frank understood was people have to pull together. They have to communicate. They have to work in order to perform. So one of the things that Frank did is he'd come in and he'd meet with his senior team. Let's say this table here is my senior team. He'd get up with his senior team, and he met with them twice a month, every 2 weeks. He said, all right, before we start the meeting, what is the purpose of United Healthcare, North Carolina, South Carolina? What's our purpose? They'd have to tell him. Improving the healthcare outcomes of our patients, improving the satisfaction level of the doctors and providers, and making sure that we continue to be the best we can. Great. Now, what's our vision this year? Where are we trying to go this year? And somebody would have to give them the vision. Now, what are our values? What is it we do? There were 6 values. Somebody on the team or different members had to give the values. He said, all right, great. So that's our purpose, our vision, our values. Now, the 3 things I want to accomplish in our meeting today are. Now, what does that do? How many leaders in this room start their meetings with their teams by saying, what's our purpose? Where are we going this year? What are our values? They're usually on a wall. Are we focused on results and mutual accountability? Personal responsibility exceeding commitments. By the way, everything's a number 1. You have to communicate, collaborate, provide feedback honestly, directly, and openly. Do you do that? Without communication, it's the lifeblood of information. It's the lifeblood of this. If I don't get communication, what happens is it drops. A number of organizations in the United States that I run into, they no longer do employee opinion surveys. They no longer do employee engagement surveys. And when I ask the VP of HR or the CEO, they say, oh, well, we've done that, but it doesn't seem to help. And I said, well, did you share the information? Well, no, because we didn't like what it was telling us, so we'd rather not know. That's like flying an airplane and saying, I don't want to see where I'm going. It's not a very safe idea. Other organizations go out and do the surveys. They look at them, they talk at the senior level, they put them on a shelf, and they never communicate it back. So the employees go, hey, I offered my ideas. What'd you think? I don't hear anything. Nobody's saying anything. I guess they really don't care about what I'm saying. I really don't know what they're doing with it. And it goes from this to this. Can you identify and work through conflicts? Conflicts on your senior team, conflicts in the organization, conflicts between divisions, conflicts between teams. I will tell you one of the biggest conflicts we see in organizations is between sales and finance. Those salespeople, they're out spending our money, and they're not doing their reports the right way. We've got different perspectives, diversity in the organization in terms of my functional flow. And do I build flexible, adaptable teams? The great French psychologist Piaget talked about a longitudinal study of how people learn and grow. And the two great principles he talked about is assimilation and accommodation. How children grow, how we grow as organizations, how we grow as adults, is we assimilate new data, and then we accommodate our understanding and our perception by shifting behavior. I like to call it assimilation and adaptability. Here's the way it works for most executives that I work with. They read all this material, they study all this material, they assimilate, and they never adapt their behavior. They don't adapt their organization to fit the changing times. It's not enough to read and feed my head. I have to exercise my heart by making a change in my behavior. Some guidelines for success that we found in the past 25, 26 years is, first, do you believe in your people? Do you believe in your people? Do you believe that there is more embedded in them? I worked with a CEO of a manufacturer in Albany, New York, and he said to me, Dustin, we want you working with our senior team. And I said, well, I want to also work with frontline factory workers. He said, don't mess with them. They only have a high school education. Some of them never went to high school. They're not going to offer you any ideas. All the intelligence is up here in the boardroom. Finally, I persuaded him to let me work. We went down there. When we started teaching those teams how to connect and communicate, and we gave them some innovation tools. We have a whole 3-day process just called bottom line innovation. As we worked with them on innovation, as we got them talking, as we got them sharing, they got a 50% increase in productivity. They decreased manufacturing costs by $400,000. Profitability doubled within the next 12 months. It came from the people on the factory floor, those people who were the least educated. Know your purpose and clarify it for people, because the container for all we do is that sense of purpose. Proverbs has a line. It says, without a vision, the people perish. Without a vision, the people perish. Why? Because the vision offers us a better future, a sense of direction. It creates a future pull. It pulls us to the future. That makes a huge difference. Focus on the 20% of your activities that give you the greatest benefit. Vilfredo Pareto, the great Italian economist, discovered less than 20% of the families in Europe control more than 80% of the wealth. The 80-20 rule. 20% of what you do every day gives you a 4-fold return. 80% of what you're doing is a waste of time. How do you focus more and more on that 20% and begin to take off the extraneous activities? What is it that only you can do with your knowledge, expertise, and insight that no one else can do? That if you're not doing, won't get done? First question. Second question, what is it you're now doing that you like that somebody else could do almost as well? Third, what percentage of what you're doing now will you hand off so you can do that which only you can do? Fail forward. Don't wait. Act, learn, act, learn, act, learn. If I have to get it perfect and I'm waiting to get it perfect, I'm probably going to be too late. Give credit where it's due. Give credit where it's due. The worst thing I can do is one of my team members comes up with a great idea. I present the idea as mine. How does she feel? Angry, frustrated. And does she feel like giving me this? No, she feels like giving me this, right? I've just lost her. But if I say, hey, I want you to come present this idea to the team, if I build her up and give her credit, she wants to give me more. That's a simple emotional intelligence piece, but a lot of leaders miss it. Knock down barriers. Communicate, 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 communicate. Emphasize we're all responsible. We're all responsible. If there's a failure on the team, I have that failure. There is a cartoon I really like, Came out 30 years ago. Now, for those of you that are artistically challenged, I'll explain what I'm drawing, because this is so graphically beautiful that this is the ocean, and this is a boat, a ship. Now, on this ship, there are some people down here, and they're bailing out water like crazy because the ship is going down. On this end of the boat, there are a couple of people. This one's smoking a cigar, and this one's drinking a Mai Tai, and this person says to that person, I sure am glad it's not our end of the boat. The truth is, if any part of my organization, any member of my team is in trouble, we're all in trouble, because it's one organization, it's one team. Are you willing to do what it will take to perform at a higher level? Do you have the tenacity and courage to change your ways of thinking and reacting, and to invite your team members to do the same in order to perform at your best? Okay.